Hello and welcome back to the Brit Iron podcast. Today we are continuing with our team rankings and team previews, and it's number 26 today, and that team is the Detroit Lions. So today, of course, joined by Matt and Sam, and I know we're all very happy to talk about this and very excited to get started on this team. So I'll kick it off, just talking about this team. There's a lot of strong receiving options here in the roster, and also a quarterback that can do the job. So I'm intrigued to see how his sort of season develops this year. What do you boys think?
I think can do the job is a bit of an understatement, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't want to... doing Stafford a bit dirty there. I mean...
I think exceed at the job at points.
The issues are more around his health, I believe.
Yeah. But, I mean, when he's healthy, even last season, when he's on the field, he looks really good. He can sling the rock. He's got great receiving options. Like you said, the issue is his health. But, I mean, everything that I'm hearing coming out of the Lions is that he's going to be healthy, ready to go. And that, for me, is a good sign. You've got two great receivers in Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, and a guy who can supply them both with plenty of targets. So I'm quite high on the Lions' offense. Whether their defense can hold up, will be remain to be seen. But it's for them. It's really they don't have the easiest schedule. They've got a rough division to play in. I think the Vikings aren't an easy team to play against. You've got a horrible defense to play against in the Bears, and playing Aaron Rodgers is never an easy task. So you've got a tricky division. This team is very much, can they put it together and can they finally string some wins together? Because, I mean, last year at points they looked like a really, really competent team. But then you look at them on the whole and it's, we're 4-12, what's happening here? So I think if Stafford can stay healthy, they've got the potential to be a very good team. It's just, can everything come together at the right time?
Yeah, I think for me they're very much a dark horse is the word to refer to them. I think I've got them in at 6 and 10, but I wouldn't be shocked if they pop up as a wildcard team either. I think they're one of those teams, if they can string it together, get a bit of consistency, stay healthy, they can compete. Because, there is concerns on the defense, but if the offense gets going and gets to sort of anywhere near its ceiling, you've got to, they can allow points because they're going to be a nightmare to stop. I think they've got the weapons, they've got what they need, they've got a loaded backfield. I mean, it's an interesting one to try and predict how it's going to work, but I mean, they've got a very competent backfield, especially if DeAndre can come in and sort of hit the ground running, literally. Then I think they'll be on track. It's just, are they going to get it together? Can they actually get it rolling and keep it rolling and not be very much a start-stop? You don't know which version of the Lions you're getting. I think that's why I've been conservative in my predictions of them and gone 6 and 10. But wouldn't be shocked if they come out as a wildcard team and we're talking about them late December playing games that matter.
Ultimately, that's the same as me. It's trying to see if it can all click into place and just making sure everyone stays healthy. And maybe I was a little bit harsh on Matthew Stafford, but my questions do lie around the health. If he can stay healthy, then definitely it'll be more than capable of doing the job.
I think it's a very similar comparison, obviously. Not in terms of the same level of what they're trying to be consistent for, but you've got the Cowboys, who it's always, if they're consistent and they played to their potential, you're saying as a pretty much a playoff lock. Normally they'll be there in January, but they just don't always seem to have to properly string it together.
Yeah,
Detroit the Lions are a slightly lower version of that you say not necessarily a lock for playoffs, but be scraping around and be very much heavily in the wild card conversation. They just can't string it together. It's very similar things. They've got all the weapons and the talent on the offense. It's just getting it to work.
Well, I think they've got two major questions at the moment. They've got their offensive line, which isn't a strong point on that team, and I think they need to firm that up. If you can get if you can be in the top half of the league for offensive line, I think that is good enough. I think that's where they need to be aiming. If they can get there, then everything else on that offense they have and they're fine with. But then it's the defense. They've made a couple of nice picks nice additions this year coming in. I really like the pickup of linebacker. What's his name? It's not popping up.
I can list off all the linebackers if you want.
Jamie Collins. Jamie Collins. That's it. So I really like him in the linebacker, and they've got a couple of other spots which I like. The big thing for me is their secondary. They did have one of the better cornerbacks in the league in Darius Slay. Now, I think losing him is a big miss. Now, they drafted Jeff Okudah very high, but you can't expect him to come in and automatically be a slot-in replacement. Maybe halfway through the season he can come in and be playing at that kind of level. So, fingers crossed he does. And their defense is playing at a similar kind of level. But realistically, other than that, on their secondary, there's no one that really jumps out of me that I think, yes, they're going to be a real game changer. So I think really this team's outlook is going to be based on how well their defense can stack up in a very solid NFC.
Yeah, I think that's the big talking point for him. It's all there. It's just the only thing you can really word it with them. It's there, and they've got some young pieces. It's just them all clicking at the same time, and not sort of you got some parts of the team firing and others not. It's just a hard to predict one for them.
Ultimately, that's what it does come down to. We also mentioned the backfield there. The two options are Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift that I can see. Which one of those would you two be starting week 1 and also say week 10 as well? Because I know DeAndre Swift is a rookie.
I think, yeah, but you kind of almost prefaced it around the way I do it is week 1, unless you see something during the preseason and it seems like they're going to lean on him heavily, I think Kerryon Johnson in week 1. But wouldn't be shocked if DeAndre Swift does get some snaps and steals away the points to the point you maybe don't really want to start either. But then by week 10, I wouldn't be sure if DeAndre Swift, if he adjusts to the league, and by that point he's had some playing time, and then he gets rolling and becomes the guy and just takes that job.
I wouldn't want to. I mean, especially from a fantasy sense, I'd be really wary of this backfield just because DeAndre Swift is really talented. Put up great numbers in college, and he comes in and in a lot of other situations, with his draft capital and everything, he'd be coming in, and I would expect that by the end of the season, he would be the guy. But coming into this offense, first of all, for a couple of years now in Detroit, they've run committee backfields. They don't seem to want to give one player the ball, which for fantasy isn't great. The other thing is, I think Kerryon Johnson is just as talented. He is as good of a player, and he will constantly be there stealing carries. And that's not what you want for fantasy. I think both of them by mid-season could both be splitting 50-50 who's getting the carries and the targets out the backfield, and that's not what I want on my fantasy team. I think all you're looking for to potentially, if you're going to find some proper value, where you said it's normally run as a committee, if one of them emerges as more of the goal line guy, but is also getting a 50% share of the carries just in a regular drive on other parts of the field, that's the place you could start to see value emerge. But I think, in terms of taking anything here with relatively high capital, you don't want to be doing that. These are guys that it plays very similar to Miami's backfield. You want to wait and see what you're getting first, and if one's going to emerge, or if it is just going to be a complete coin flip of who you see on each different play. And it's one that's a risk. It could lose. I think it's the kind of backfield either these players could lose you more weeks than they'll win you, just because they won't get the carries that week. Or it's one, with DeAndre Swift being a rookie, if he happens to be adjusting to the league, if he fumbles and they think, right, well, we're not going to give him too much more this game, and they give it more to carry on and stuff like that. It's such a difficult one to predict. You're going to get burnt by it, I get the feeling.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
And even if one does emerge, they're going to be in a lot of negative game scripts where they're going to have to throw the ball. I can't see that they're going to be in a lot of scripts where they're up 2 scores early and it's just run the clock down and run the ball. So I think you've got that to consider. You
can stream Stafford heavily this year. I don't think just because of his health, you don't want him being your guy. You're not pinning your team on him. But he's someone I think we said similar with Daniel Jones, you can have on your bench as a guy that every now and then you look at a week and you think, well, hang on, this could turn into a shootout here. And he's going to just be thrown from a negative game script and get your points. But also, when he does most likely get some kind of a knock, it doesn't end your season.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely a high streaming option, but I think he's a guy you don't need to be going near him in most drafts. Unless you've got a very deep bench, he's a guy you can just use off the waiver wire early and see what happens.
Yeah. That's certainly what I'll be trying to do with him. I won't be drafting him at all, but yeah, looking to stream him.
I think maybe very late pick in a 12 if you've got a 12-team league.
Yeah, a bit deeper.
Maybe if people have been going quarterback heavy and sometimes you have
Deeper
to adjust
leagues.
to it. Potentially, and if you've got a
deeper
bench.
leagues or one of these weird leagues that has like a dual quarterback league,
Yeah,
then
you've got a
definitely
2
pick
QB
him up.
Yeah, that's a whole different concept, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
It changes the conversation.
I think
100%.
the real fantasy value you're getting from this team is the wide receivers, isn't it? Like Kenny Golladay is set; he's probably going to be a wide receiver 1, and Marvin Jones is going to be right on his tails. I mean, I'm a firm believer in Marvin Jones being. They could flip this year, in my opinion. That you could see Marvin Jones being a top 6 receiver, and Kenny Golladay being a top 15, 16. And for the next year or two, they could do both because they've got a quarterback who's not afraid of chucking it downfield. He's a real gunslinger, which is great for them. They're going to be in negative game scripts, which is going to force them to shove the ball downfield. So I think both of these guys, Marvin Jones Jr. especially, I think is a real value this year because everyone's going to want Golladay because he did it last year. But Marvin Jones Jr. quietly had a really good year last year, quite productive even for fantasy, and you can probably pick him up in the 7th, 8th round.
That's what I was thinking. If you're looking at it and you're there 8th, 9th, you've got your running backs sorted. You feel like you've got maybe your top 1 and 2 for your receivers, and you're looking for that guy that's going to be a flex option that you can play where you need to, and potentially even higher. Marvin Jones could be incredible value at that rank if he continues to develops on what he did last year for me. I think the other player it's a difficult one. He's shown he can do it, but it's very flash in the pan.
Don't say it.
I'm gonna say it, and I know you've been burned by it.
Don't say his
TJ
name.
Hawkinson. He's not someone you're drafting. I'm not saying it's someone you grab early. I'm saying as a streaming option. If in the right matchup and a game where you know, as you said, it's going to be a shootout, if he starts to build on the 1 or 2 times he showed up last year, potentially he could be one to watch as just purely a streaming tight end. If you're on a bye week, you've got an injury, if you're in a bit of a jam at the position, which can be difficult to solve, especially in deeper leagues, he's one not to write off yet. You can't just after one season write him off.
See, for me, I actually prefer Jesse James as a streamer on that offense. I would rather run with Jesse James as a stream than TJ Hawkinson. I think we just have not seen enough time in it. I think TJ Hawkinson's got way more potential, like from a football standpoint, and he's big, strong-bodied, can block in the run game. But I mean, I had him last year. You had him week 1, and then he did nothing for the rest of the season. And I would be wary to stream him. I think I'd want to see more from him. At least I know with Jesse James, he's done it a couple of times where he's had a big week. So
you're not coming out the doors to like say you're going to put him in as a guy you're streaming week 1 or anything. You're going to have a guy. It's just if your tight end is injured and potentially in dynasty leagues, a guy you can definitely stash, keep an eye on.
Yes,
that's what I was going to mention. Dynasty.
I think in dynasty it's a different conversation. But I think for your 1 season leagues, you're not drafting him, you're not spending a lot on him in terms of fab. It's just if you have a need and you need a guy and you're solid elsewhere and you think he's more likely to, he'll either win or lose you the week, I think.
Yeah.
In that you've got to see him develop first. So I'd want to see, I wouldn't be doing anything with him in the first 5 weeks. Unless I have to.
Outside of Dynasty, I think it have to be a very deep league for me to consider a streaming option there. I don't think I'd really be going near him. But there is another name in the wide receiver core that maybe we've overlooked. Geronimo Allison.
Interesting.
Does he offer any value? I mean, looking at his fantasy points per game in a PPR league, in 2018 it was 12.5, and last year 4.6. Is there any value for him, maybe in a deeper league?
I think if one of, we've said Golladay or Jones goes down, there's an opportunity for him to emerge somewhere there.
Yeah.
You've still got obviously Danny Amendola, who's just another name. You're obviously going to be working more in the slot, who, if you're losing receivers, could also be stepping up and competing for those targets. So I think it's not a guy you look anywhere near in the draft. This is purely as a reaction to an injury. And if you have Golladay or Jones and they go down, you see them go out in a game, and it looks like it's going to be one for a few weeks, then maybe you pick him up and just take a fly on him. If Golladay or Jones is on your IR, why not? But it's a very dependent.
It's a long shot, I think.
I'd double down with that. If Golladay or Jones goes down, then Geronimo Allison is the next person in line to be maybe not the possession guy, because you've still got Danny Amendola in front of him, but you've got, if one of those two lead guys goes down, Geronimo Allison, 6'3", big red zone target, he would be the guy in the red zone potentially, which is where you get value from him. But I think whilst Golladay and Marvin Jones are up, then when they're running 3 wide out sets, you're probably with a wide out on either side. I would imagine it will be Golladay, Jones, and Amendola that are lining up, especially in the red zone. So you have 1 slot guy and then 2 big-bodied wide outs.
Yeah.
I would imagine Geronimo Allison will be more of a rotational player in that situation. I think to get real value from him, you'd need an injury to Jones and Golladay, and I'm not going to go out and wish an injury on anyone. So
no.
Yeah, definitely not. No, we don't want to be doing that. So
I'm sure James might on Brashard Perriman, but
don't get me started on Perriman.
Yeah.
That'll be a rabbit hole we don't want to go down again. But I'm more than happy if you want to entertain that idea. But I think for the interest of the viewers, I think
for the sake of everyone at home, I really think not.
For the sake of our sanity, I'll stay away. But yeah, the Lions, I think, just waiting to see if it all clicks together. And I know we're all excited to see how that pans out. But that, I think, is all we've got to mention on the Lions for this episode. So, as ever, please check us out on YouTube. Go like, comment, subscribe. And also head over to Instagram and check us out at the Brit Iron is our handle. And so, yeah, thanks for listening and watching, guys. And we'll see you next week.